Are your lions still out there? Welcome back. Well, we may not all be as cute as those meerkats, but we do have our lions to deal with just as they do. Now, sadly, no wave of a magic wand will get rid of lions for them. And if there are not lions out there trying to get them, it's going to be hyenas. And there's no magic wand for our lives either. However, what we do have are options. Options to learn from one another, and when we're lucky, to learn from the very best. Yes, there are better and worse ways to deal with our situations. But sure, we could climb back into bed and pull up the covers or stick our heads in the sand, but that's for ostriches, not for the meerkat clan who value bettering yourselves and, in particular, your emotional fitness. So let's move forward by standing on the shoulders of hundreds of others who have used, researched, and practiced this almost magical approach to handling and even benefiting from tough situations. Now, looking at this another way, what we're doing here is looking at, hearing about, and putting into use a new tool. This tool is a social technology rather than a mechanical or electronic technology. Now, I know that you know very well how tools literally transform our lives. After all, where would we be today without our smartphones, our computers, plastics, ovens, cars, our medicine, motorcycle, planes, and on and on. Tools let you do things you simply could never do without. Now, that's what this solutions building tool does. It also transforms your ability to handle and deal with life's challenges. When you get lost, you reach for your smartphone's navigation tool, right? Now, when things start to heat up in a problem situation, you have an option to reach for the solutions matrix that helps you navigate your way to a solution, and fast. So let's get right to it. As a better way to understand what these three steps are, I first want to mention one big concern I have, and it's connected to the three principles of change that undergird the steps outlined here. My concern is that because the steps are such small, doable ones, making progress simple, that some might dismiss them as interesting, yes, I can do that, but they could never change my big problem. But let me tell you, these three principles emphatically say otherwise. Let me mention them very quickly now, and we can talk more about them later to see how they impact what we do and how to make these principles work for us. First, change is always happening. 2, small changes accumulate into bigger changes. And 3, change in your own sphere of influence necessarily creates changes in others. Now, I'm sure that when you think about it, you can understand my concern in light of the simple fact that here in America, at least, we live in a supersized, bigger is better world. Now, I'm hoping that you've already begun to get a feel for just how remarkably transformational one small step can be, even when it has no apparent glitz and glamour associated with it. If you watched the first video, I believe you heard and by now may have experienced yourself how small, well-placed shifts in your focus at the right time, right when you start to engage your problem, is when you make the biggest difference to your future, your experience, your stress levels, and your lives all told. And that is not something that anyone else can do but you. You make that difference to your life. So let's come in and take a closer look at these first 5 to 15 seconds. In the last video, we were looking at it in real time, a kind of 1 times magnification. Now we're going to go and look at it with a magnification of 10 times closest, or slowing things down a little more so we can see even better what's going on and what we need to do. And then that will give us the context for the solutions matrix, which is more like a 100 times magnification. And I'll let you look at that in the next video so that you can see where all of this is going. So for now, let's look at these first 5 to 15 seconds using the 10 times magnification lens. So here we are with the 3 steps, and these are the 3 things to do in those first 15 seconds when your stress alert goes off, and you can think of them as ready, set, go. Now, just a word of warning about these ready, set, go steps that actually form the core of your personal challenge response plan. While they are brilliant and absolutely necessary for getting you down the track toward liberating, relieving, and even exciting and fun solutions, believe it or not, to your recent and annoying problems or your most horrible ones. Alone, they won't get you the full distance. Alone, they are unlikely to solve the whole serious, complex problem. But don't worry, we'll cover what you need to do after these 3 essential steps in the next video, so I want you to keep your eye out for that one. Now, what these 3 steps do is to get you doing something very different than you were doing just seconds before you encountered the problem, or whatever it was that you were doing when you realized you just had to get serious about dealing with your stress and problems and doing it differently than what you were already doing. So these critical steps tee you up or help you set a new course for you so that you have a forward momentum for your emotional engagement and a focus on solutions. These steps give you a chance to choose a focus on creating solutions rather than sticking with the problem with all of its emotional entanglements that keep you wallowing and wasting time and wasting your precious life. Then, fascinatingly, as you head off down the track toward what you do want, rather than hanging out with what you don't want, you will discover you start asking yourself a very different set of questions. And that is precisely where the solutions matrix comes in. It's your way to navigate your fastest path to a solution you really want. And that's where the fun begins. So the getting ready part is noticing your physical state. And as you do that, I want you to breathe deeply and relax your shoulders. The problem's not going to go away just because you stop focusing on it for that instant. Now, of course, I'm not talking about imminent physical danger here. That's a whole different situation. On issues of day-to-day life, it's not going to disappear just because you stop thinking about it for a couple of seconds. In fact, that's how you begin to take some measure of control. As soon as you notice your pulse race, the blood go up your neck, your hands clench, whatever your particular physiological reactions are to tension and threat, I want you to take that as a sign that it's time to breathe deeply and relax your shoulders. So that's the getting ready part. The getting set part is all about mental focus and the course you set yourself on. Now, Socrates said this very succinctly. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Mental focus sets the trajectory for your thoughts, plans, and actions. It's a powerful setting we rarely make use of, intentionally at least. Our shifts in focus are often under the radar, so to speak. So this is precisely what I want you to do. To notice what you are focused on, and then to intentionally shift your focus onto, as Socrates said, building the new. That is, onto what you want. And according to your experience so far, it isn't yet in existence. So it still needs to be completed. It still needs to be built. And also it's a little bit using this metaphor of ready, set, go, getting ready to get up and run. You shift your weight forward. You don't shift it back when you want to be able to move forward and propel yourself in a new direction successfully. So you can think of it that way also. And then you go. In other words, you take at least one small step that you know will move you closer to your goal. Now, how far? An inch is sufficient. A tiny little piece of getting toward your goal is the critical thing here. Not taking big strides. So what I want you to do as you have then made that decision to move forward, and if possible, take your very first step physically, then I want you to notice your emotions, how you feel in that moment, having taken that step, having made that concrete, committed decision. I think you just might be surprised. So this ready, set, go is something that you will use not just once, but time and again. It's most obviously needed in those critical moments. But as you're working your way through toward your goal, this is what you need to be able to do, is to utilize these 3 steps more than once. Now, to help you a little more with this right here, I want you to stop the video in a moment when I tell you to. And to stop the video, if you haven't noticed, you can just click anywhere on the video and it will pause, and then click it again and that will unpause it. But what I first want to interrupt you with is some thoughts about why these 3 steps in the midst of a problem or crisis can actually relieve stress. The key to avoiding stress when you find yourself in a difficult situation lies in taking some kind of action in relation to the difficult situation. Now, that is taking, making, acting upon a decision even when it's hard. Now, the meerkats would love those lions stalking them to disappear, but they're just not going to. So the meerkats need to do something to deal with their predicament. And if they don't, yes, they're going to experience stress. For us, when tensions mount, yet we do nothing to solve our situation, the energy of that moment that is stirred up in our bodies turns from potential forward and outgoing movement in toward an unresolved and internal tension or stress. Think of it this way. You have a bow and you draw it back and getting ready to send that arrow to its target, but right at full extension. You have second thoughts, or perhaps you simply freeze. Now, in those moments of indecision, your muscles start to protest, that is, spasm and shake. You lose mental clarity and focus, and the potential energy in the bowstring needing to be released now dissipates back into your body, since the arrow was not sent to its goal. Tensions in your life are not the same as stress. Tension is often our friend. Tensions help us become focused, efficient, and help us get things done. Hey, you remember how the tension surrounding deadlines resulted in studies getting done, reports getting done, work cleaning, and on and on. Tensions become unhealthy and turn into stress when something stops that healthy flow and movement of energy toward a goal. Sometimes a blockage is caused by something as simple as severe procrastination. That prevents the completion of the task. Or in other cases, it might be the thought, I have no choice. Now, have you ever said that to yourself in the middle of a predicament? That one little lie, yes, and it is a lie, small but very unhelpful to you, creates indecision and causes us immense amounts of stress. We can always, but always do something. True, we may not like all the outcomes of those tough decisions. And frankly, many of us would much rather have those bad consequences come to us as if it was forced on us by others, rather than seeing them as a result of our own choosing. Hence, I had no choice. But in the end, it starts to matter less and less about how we ended up in a mess, and more about what we're going to do. So I want you to remember that it is the doing of something, any small step toward a solution, that relieves our stress. Taking action of some kind is key, and there are always many actions that are possible. Don't wait to find the best one. The best one will be the one that you take. Action toward a solution is what will relieve the anxiety of your problem. It is inaction that increases your stress levels. So this is all good news, right? Knowing that taking action, especially small steps toward what you want and away from the problem, will actively decrease your stress is a very important piece of information to add to your emotional life toolkit. You can always do something about your stress. And don't forget principle of change number 2. Small changes accumulate into larger ones. So back to our exercise. It's very important in all of this to be very specific and to deal with actual situations and not just concepts or ideas. I want you to have a very real experience with this exercise right now. So write down in one short sentence one thing that brings you here today. Now the problem can be large or it can be small, but one specific problem. You may have many, that's okay. We deal with them one at a time. So just pick one for right now. Go ahead and stop the video, and then I want you to write it down. It should just take one sentence, maybe two, but make it as concise as possible. And then once you've finished, start the video again. Okay, so welcome back. Now I want you to give the 3 steps a try in the context of this problem. What do I mean by that? Now, try it this way. Do you remember the last incident associated with this problem that you just wrote down? Well, I want you to step into that moment and relive it, so to speak. So as you begin to feel the tensions rise, I want you to catch yourself and then do each of the 3 steps as best you can. Now here, there is no right, there is no wrong in this. You're simply getting the feel of how you might respond differently next time. Before you head off into Mordor with the ring around your neck, let me review these steps with you in a little bit more detail. So first, notice what's happening in your physical state. As you begin to feel some of the frustrations, possibly anger or embarrassment or some other emotion rising, and definitely before you get too entranced by the problem, notice your physical state and then take a deep breath, or 2 or 3, whatever works for you. And also to notice how that changes your state as well. Notice how taking a breath, notice how relaxing your shoulders changes your state. Then, second, I want you to notice your mental state, that is, your internal talk, what you're saying to yourself and what you're focusing on, what your inner eye is looking at, and what questions you are asking yourself. Then, as you have noticed that, what I want you to do is almost literally turn around 180 degrees and shift your focus forward toward what you want, toward a positive outcome of this situation, not what you don't want. I want you to focus on what it is you want. Focus forward. 180 degrees, the opposite of when you are focused on the problem. That's shifting your focus. Note, focusing on making this one shift toward the future, toward what you want, toward solutions, actually reduces your resistance to change, because now you're beginning to look at and focus on the things that you want. That's attractive to you, and that allows you to move. When you keep focusing on the past, on what can't be changed, on what keeps you wanting to be comforted, well, that effectively lulls you into inaction where you are looking for comfort and waiting for someone else to make your life better. So you become resistant to the very thing that needs to happen, and that is for you to do something because you're busy waiting for somebody else to comfort you or to help you or to aid you. Anything that will bring you even 1 inch closer to your desired goal is what you need to do. And thirdly, I want you to notice some small thing that you need to get done anyway. Now, you'll know what that is. You know your circumstances better than anyone in the world. I can't tell you. But you will know at least one small step that will bring you closer to your goal. Depending on the challenge you are facing, it may mean choosing to speak up about a situation at work or file a complaint, look for another job, discuss options openly with some important person in your life, making an appointment with a doctor or a counselor, writing a note and saying, "I'm sorry," or "I love you," something that you should have said or could have said but haven't yet, and don't want to live with that regret. There are so many things. You could go out and do a random act of kindness, or start a food diary if you need a baseline for some kind of food issues. The point is, there is always something that can be done, and now is the time to do it. So take that first step. Even if the first step is making a clear decision and a commitment to action, and then notice your changing emotional state. By taking that small step and being decisive, moving toward what you want, you will begin to notice that also, just like relaxing your shoulders and taking in that breath, your stress will be being reduced. The doing of this is what makes the changes in your life. Okay, so if you've needed to take notes or go back and review these last couple of minutes of the video again, I want you to take a shot at these 3 steps. Don't expect miracles with flashing lights or drum rolls. The steps outlined here are to give you a feel for taking charge in those critical moments. And that is no small transformation. Once you've learned how to do this, you can do this in every critical moment for the rest of your life. Now that can be huge. In the past, those moments have probably slid right on by without you doing anything to intentionally direct your future. So as you learn here to look for, find, and then master those moments in your life, you will already be making a huge difference to your future. So now that we've reviewed those 3 steps again, I want you to go ahead, stop the video, and try them out. And once you've finished, then start the video again. We've almost finished, so come on back. So what did you discover as you did that run through? Let me tell you, this is powerful for a couple of reasons. Now, you may already have thought of some of these, but here are at least 3 that should really be mentioned. First, you will be discovering more about yourself, how your physiology and your psychology are interrelated. There is all kinds of fascinating science related to this body-mind stuff. But what is important here is that you gain new awareness of your capacity to intervene in your own responses. Yes, you are actually turning reactions into responses through these intentional acts, through these 3 steps. Secondly, you are building yourself new options for action that you didn't have before. Having walked this through, you're building up a little kind of muscle memory so that when the next personal crisis or hot moment happens, you now have your ready, set, go steps in place as part of your personal challenge response plan. And third, and we will look at this more in the next video, but you now have the framework in place to make optimal use of the solutions matrix, which is the next part of the solutions building system that becomes very powerful when used within and beyond these crisis moments. So in the next video, we will zoom in even further to 100 times and begin to look at some of the how-tos of shifting your focus onto solutions, the how-tos of making the right kinds of goals for personal problem solving, and the how-tos of using 5 potent lines of inquiry or questions that make up the solutions matrix and that really help you clarify your goals, monitor your progress, discover your resources, and keep you focused and much more, so that you can spin gold out of lead, so to speak, as you turn tensions and challenge into solutions-building actions rather than stress-producing, time-wasting, wallowing in problems that get you no closer to your goal. So this is where things get really fascinating, fascinatingly interesting, and in so many ways very simple. So give me another couple of days to get that video done, and I'll see you then. Oh, hi guys. I guess you got yourself away from those lions. That's a relief.